Hello and welcome to another episode of TBF Weekly. This is the preview for Liverpool versus Arsenal, a highly awaited top of the table clash, which possibly could be, a title decider for this season. Super excited about this game. We have two new people joining us, Akash and Harshit from LFC Delhi, and we have our old folks Prayag and AJ, the Arsenal boys. And it's just going to be a fun pod. We're going to talk about the key matchups, what's exciting about the fixture, maybe some of the past fixtures that's happened between Liverpool and Arsenal, and finally the combined 11, which we're gonna be releasing as soon as the video comes up. So, I mean, before we start, let's just go to Akash. Bro, how's this season been for you? I mean, as compared to last season wasn't that great for Liverpool. It was a bit of a downer after the years that you've had with Klopp. How has this season been, and how excited are you for the end of the season?
To be honest, I'd say this season reminds me quite like the 1920 and the 2021 type of seasons, whereby we're doing well in the league, consistently getting those results. There's still areas that need to be fixed. I'd say we had a complete revamp of our midfield. We brought in Szoboszlai, we brought in McAllister. To be fair, I wasn't expecting them to hit the ground from the word go, but I'm quite happy with how things have been. We've been doing well in the league. We have a quarterfinal coming up just in a bit, and then we're doing fine in Europa as well. We're already through the round of 16. So I'd say if you had given me where we are at the start of the season, I would have happily taken it.
Harshit, do you agree with him? Do you think you would have taken where you are at this point? Of course you would have, but do you think anything could have been better, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one word to summarize this season so far is probably resurgent, right? I mean, given our struggles in the transfer market, the fact that we got Wataru Endo was pretty much considered a panic buy, and then Gravenberg came in on the last day, on the deadline day, right? And as Akash mentioned, I think McAllister and Szoboszlai, right, the way they have sort of settled in, they're playing multiple different roles within the team. You don't really expect that. To be honest, I was quite expecting the kind of the season that we had last year, right? Just given our struggles in the transfer market. But now the expectations are elevated because we really look like a team that has depth. We have 5 fantastic options in our forwards, right? They're not quite a permanent fixture like Mane, Salah, and Firmino. The who sort of signify the Klopp era. But we have a lot of cover in the squad, a lot of players who bring their own qualities, and certainly I think with 17 games gone, with where we are at the table, right, I do think that we are in with a shot for the title once again.
Yeah, for sure. Right up in the mix. AJ, what do you think about Arsenal season? I know you're top of the table. What do you think about the elephant now? How's the elephant doing?
The elephant's getting fatter by the day. The tree is getting watered, the branch is getting stronger. Things are working out. And of course, these guys would take their second position. They'll bite your hand off. Why not? I mean, nobody predicted it. They lost Caicedo, they lost Lavia at the very end. Then they got Endo, who nobody heard of. And now they're a second. So kudos to them. Kudos to the players, the way they're playing. But on the whole, talking about like my team, right, Arsenal, it's been like Mikel Arteta completed 4 years today, so it's definitely has been a very up and down road, more up than downs. But initial few years and months were terrible, like half a season 8th place finish and another season 8th place finish, and then we kind of like got beaten for the 4th spot at the very end. And now we are, challenging for the title 2 years in a row. So it's been fun following the club again. We've been in the ditches for 20 years now, and it's fun to be back and fun to be fighting Liverpool, because City, I just feel like it's one of those things. It feels like you're fighting against someone who is just cheating the sport. Fighting Liverpool feels like it's back to the olden days of glory football and history between the two clubs. So it's nice.
Good answer, bro. Prag, do you think this iteration of Arsenal can challenge at the top the same way that Liverpool challenged for so many years?
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to start out by talking about Liverpool and what I said about Klopp a few months back, specifically his face. I said that is not the face of a person who seems to
Yeah.
be charged up to win the title. He seems like a shell of his former self. He looks really desperate when the season started out. But I have to say, they've turned things around and players are stepping up. And as an Arsenal fan, we've been so focused on City for the entirety of last year and like the beginning of this year as well, that we sort of forgot about like how big of a club Liverpool is. So right now, I would say that if we're going to be talking about the title race, right, we need to think about squad depth, and I think that definitely Arsenal are in a better position for that. We have a really good squad this season, and we have a lot of players to back them up as well. And when it comes to Liverpool, we need to start asking the question: what happens if Salah is injured? What happens if Alisson is injured? What happens if Van Dijk is injured? So for this game, anything can happen. But for the entirety of the season, I think Arsenal are in a better position to win the title.
Yeah, for sure, that makes sense. Let me get Akash back into the mix. Do you agree with Prayag? Do you have any retaliation to his Klopp comments? I saw your face.
No, I mean, to be fair, I haven't heard the stuff he said before. But coming back to what he said, I do agree that in terms of squad depth, we could be light because we haven't really added quite a lot of depth in terms of quality in the midfield. That's where I feel Arsenal do have a lot of good options. But I just feel that Klopp has been in this two-horse race in the past for quite a lot of seasons, whereas Arsenal only came about there last time around. And to have that feeling going into March and April when City they do go on this relentless form of winning every game, it sort of comes down to experience as well, handling pressure. So I feel if we are where we are right now, let's say March, April, I do feel Liverpool have had that experience of closing the season before, and even when they missed out on the title, they missed out barely by a point a couple of times. So if you talk about the last 6 to 7 seasons, we've only had like one bad season, and let's say March, I feel Liverpool will close the season out. But there's a big question mark on where City is. If all the three clubs are going for it, I feel that City with that cheat code in their squad, having so much depth, I think they could also come back quite well.
Yeah. It's a good segue.
Just one comment there. I mean, I've heard this argument a lot of times about Liverpool having experience against City, but all that experience is of losing. You lost 3 years out of 4 or 4 years out of 5. So I mean, your experience doesn't count for much in like title battles. You've always lost. The one season you won was when City fell off, and it was a COVID season. So I mean, I get you're saying like you have a lot of experience of fighting City, but most of your experience is like losing to City. It's not like you've beaten City when they were at their best or like going out for all gung ho. So I guess with that we have a better squad than compared to last season. We are up and coming for the past 4 or 5 seasons. So I think on that argument, I just don't feel like there is much to pick between the two teams. I mean, if you want to say Salah and like you're the 4 world-class players you have, sure, but experience, I don't think there is much of a difference when it comes to experience.
I think the point that you're missing over here is when I say experience, I mean experience in performing when it matters. Let's say when the Champions League final comes around or the knockout stages come around. So Liverpool do have this tendency of closing games out when they're under pressure, when they have their backs against the wall. I wasn't talking about
you lost 2 Champions League finals to Real Madrid in 3 seasons,
and we won as well. So
you have the experience to be there, but not finish off.
Let me just come in here.
I should go ahead.
Yeah, let me just come in here and say that season 18-19 under Klopp, we had 97 points. City had 98. 19-20, we had 99 points. 21-22, we had 92 points and lost to City by 1 point. All these 3 seasons, we've actually had more points than Arsenal's best ever team, the Invincibles, did. Under
And
Klopp,
the keyword is lost.
last season was the only season in which we did not play in either the club cup final or did not finish in a top 4 position, right? So when you see the track record of excellence and success that Klopp has built, it's a bit rich coming from Arsenal fans to then come and say who are playing their first Champions League in 7 years.
Arsenal fans, not fans.
Arsenal fans, sorry. then come
No,
in
but
and say that, hey, Arsenal have all the experience.
I
No,
mean,
my friend, you don't.
we can
Don't.
definitely go and talk about history, but we're talking about present. Presently, you're not what you were in the history, and that's clearly what we're talking about.
And still we're competing for the title, so that should say
Sure.
something.
No, it's still
So
you're one
just do
point
it.
behind us, and that should say a lot about your experience because you've
So
always
come
lost the league
Saturday,
by one
we'll
point.
find out. Come Saturday. By the way, wind the clock back to 2014. In this
It is
fixture, in the league, Arsenal, or no, no, sorry, not in the league, across all the fixtures that we've had, Arsenal, I believe, just have four wins, right?
probably not even
In
that.
that time,
Probably not even
we've
that. I
scored
mean,
4 goals, 5 goals. We've trounced you at
absolutely,
Anfield. This is our fixture. This is our
absolutely.
fixture. It's for us to win. Good kudos to you. You know, I love Arteta. He's put together a brilliant team. Let me put it out there, and I absolutely love the Rice signing, right? But to sort of to write off Liverpool, do it at your own peril. I would say, do it at your own peril because
And just to add to that, I feel we're still quite early days of the season. League titles are never won on Christmas. That's why I said let's wait till March and April, see where the clubs are. We are quite sure that if the current position where we're just 1 point behind you guys, it doesn't make a big difference because we have had these experiences in the past and not once but many a times. So and Arsenal haven't had that experience in the recent years. The only good season that they had was the last season, and not undermining the success that you guys had. I mean, you guys finished second, but like if you look at the bigger picture, we have to see this team that has been there for the last 5-6 years. The midfield has changed quite a lot, so it will take time for stuff to settle down, and that's why I'm saying it's still early days. We have to see where things are come March and April.
yeah.
No, but do
Yeah.
you guys have any depth in your squad? I'm just asking, like, what happens if some of these players are injured? Like, who are the backups? Because
I feel we
realistically,
have
injuries
yeah,
will
yeah.
come. Like,
Yeah, I agree. We also have certain players leaving for AFCON, which will be a big miss for us, let's say in January. So I feel when you talk about the squad depth, okay, let's divide. Like on the front, we do have sufficient cover because we have 5 attackers, and then we have a couple of academy players who have got experience playing in Europe as well. So I think on the front line we are pretty much covered. Considering like Nunez and Diaz, they sort of come back to their forms. I think defensively we are slightly short. So I do take your point that let's say what Alisson gets injured, so Kelleher wouldn't provide the same quality, but even the centre back area is an area of question mark for us. If you talk about squad depth, I did agree that you have a better squad depth than us. And let's say if we do end up signing a couple of quality players, which at the current moment doesn't look likely to me in January, we could be back in it. Let's say when the end of the season comes about.
So
I haven't seen most of Liverpool games, but are you guys rotating the squad when
Yeah.
constantly?
Yeah.
Is that going on?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I think the primary rotations tend to happen in the midfield, but yeah, I will concede that I think right side of attack, where primarily Salah plays in from, we don't really have cover, and we have a young player called Ben Doak who's recently gotten injured, right? Again, and taking Akash's point, centre back, right? Joel Matip is now out for the season, so those are areas that we will struggle. But then increasingly, I think in right back you have Joe Gomez who's covering in for Trent, and he's sort of been resurgent this season, quite typical of our season in general, right? And then we also have Trent moving into midfield. So should we be short in midfield, we have options of bringing in Trent. We have Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones. So midfield is well covered. So is the forward line, I would say, barring the right side. Left back against Simicas is doing a good enough job. I do feel that the bottleneck lies in the centre back positions, right? If we have one more injury, it looks like we are in trouble. If we have Alisson injured, and a very typical example would be the Fulham game, where if you see at least the first 2 goals, we had Quiveen Kelleher playing, who's our second choice keeper, who's actually a good keeper, but did not have the kind of performance Alisson would have. He would have saved those first 2 goals versus Fulham, which were pretty naive goals to concede. So, squad depth, I would say we're much better than previous seasons, right? We have a lot of utility players who can feature into different positions. Having said that, centre back, goalkeeper remains a bottleneck.
Priyag, what do you think about Arsenal's squad depth? Like, do you think? I mean, obviously it's much better than last season, and that was the biggest topic for last season. Do you think it's sustainable for a title challenge this year?
Yeah, I'm still scared about the centre back situation again this time around. I mean, Timber is going to be coming back in Jan. That's good. But I feel like, Harshit, you gave the example of the Fulham game, right? My example would be literally the end of last season for Arsenal. Once Saliba was out, we were done. Like, we
Yeah.
did have decent centre backs, but it wasn't enough. Did you see how he was against Man City? This guy is integral for Arsenal to win games and get good results. So I'm still concerned. Like, what happens if something happens to Saliba? I think apart from that, having players like Trossard and Havertz is pretty, like, it's a very useful thing to have, because these guys can play in multiple positions and rotate around. Arteta is trying to do something similar to Pep, right? He's trying to get those sort of multi-utility players. So I think it really comes down to, like, what is the situation when Timber comes back? If we don't have any additional injuries, we are going to be in a good position, because Timber can play like in left back, right back, center back. If as long as he's there, I think it's fine. And goalkeeper situation, I don't have to say anything. You guys know what's happening there. And
It's a little complicated.
I think I think if you look at the weakest position that we have, not in terms of depth, but just the position which is not world class or not close to world class, I would say is a striker position, right? Jesus is a really good player, but he's not like a pure striker. And we're apparently there is rumors going around that we're trying for Ivan Toney. So I don't know. I think that is a cause for concern, because if you guys have seen the Aston Villa game, we missed a lot of chances. And we did control the game. We did have more possession, more passes, but we couldn't close it out. So I think, yeah, centre back in terms of depth, and in general squad, I would say the weak point is not having a striker.
Right. Let me reverse the questions and let me ask Harshit. Bro, what do you think is a stronger contender to Liverpool this season, Arsenal or City, and why?
I think Arsenal, and the reason being that City, I feel they've lost a few players over the summer and they've made their signings, but I still think that the squad in general needs to gel well together. I think they've also, first season they're playing in the FIFA Club World Cup. In the build up to that, obviously, they've lost a lot of form, right? And if you see some of the fixtures that are still, some of the big fixtures, it's only halfway into the season, they will be dropping more points. So I would say City, while they will still compete, there will be nearabouts, but they are definitely not going to like trounce the league that they have been doing over the last few years, right? Meanwhile, Arsenal, I feel they have shown form so far, and to my surprise, and the only surprise being that they're competing in the Champions League for the first time in 7 years. So, and a lot of players are also competing in the Champions League for the first time. So you would naturally expect that to, impact their season. But you've gone through the group stage, right, which is probably more intensive, and that hasn't impacted the season so far. So it's cause for optimism for Arsenal, I feel. Right, I do feel Arsenal will still make more signings. Right, there were rumors of Victor Osimhen, right? Ivan Toney, as Prayag I think mentioned, and there are centre forward options out there. So if Arsenal do get a centre forward, I really feel that Arsenal can be a very strong contender.
Same question to you, Prayag. City or Liverpool? What do you think? Or Villa? I don't know if I have to get that in there. But
yeah, we can't just consider what's been happening just for this season, right? We need to look further back and consider that as well. So with City, in a way, you can say this is their depth that's playing right now, because once Kevin De Bruyne comes back in, it's going to be a different game, and I think we can expect them to churn out more consistent results once they have everyone firing in all cylinders. So yeah, I mean, I'm really glad what's happening to City, right? This feels good. It is very like it's very fun to watch them struggle like this. A club that seemingly has not struggled at all in the last 5 years, you can say, totally broke Arsenal fans' heart last season. At the end of the day, City are always going to be a
I
threat.
think we've all been victims here. Like,
Yeah.
more victims sitting over here.
But the thing about Liverpool is that, of course, they on paper they were always a good squad. They were last season as well, but things didn't work out, and this season I sort of ruled them out as well, because I thought they didn't have enough depth and they didn't have any insane, like, great signings to give them that kind of confidence. But
Yeah.
they proved me wrong, and every time I'm watching a Liverpool game and they're losing 1-0, whatever, they're coming back and they're winning the games. So
Yeah,
I'm really
yeah,
concerned now about Liverpool, but I
yeah,
still have like short-term trauma from what City did last season.
yeah.
So
I think I think they have these four legacy players, right? Allison, Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent. So I mean, they've won everything, and that's the reason why,
plus
like,
Klopp,
they
yeah.
plus Klopp. Yeah, I mean, obviously a legacy manager, and these four players have been through it all with Klopp, and they've won everything. So that kind of experience is what Arsenal are missing. So that is something that is really important in a title run-in. But again, Arsenal, like, have the hunger. They have I mean, Declan Rice probably like transformative signing. That is something singularly which can push Arsenal through. Also, Arteta's second season, I just feel like every season that guy is learning more and more, making lesser mistakes, which he used to do before. But yeah, time will tell. Cool. Let's get back to the game at hand. Akash, who do you think in Arsenal, like, who are you the most scared of, or maybe the key matchup which you're really not looking forward to? Where do you think is Arsenal could hurt you?
I think it's probably down the wings with Saka and Martinelli because we don't have Robertson. We have Tsimikas, who's been doing okay in Robertson's absence. But I still feel we need that experience when you play players like Martinelli and Saka. And even on the right back situation, we've been moving things around with Gomez and Trent. We've been rotating between them on the right hand side. And also taking cue from Bragg, where he says that forward line is one area of concern. So I wouldn't be much bothered from there, but it's definitely the wings where we need to be careful because we do tend to press a lot from the wings, and it always leaves a gap behind us. So yeah.
Yeah, Harshad, do you agree with them?
I do. Because Saka and Martinelli, and I think there's two other players I think that can also hurt us really badly. That are obviously Odegaard and Zinchenko, right? Zinchenko,
He's gonna play.
I'm sorry?
If he's gonna play.
If he's gonna play, because Zinchenko, I feel he brings the kind of quality that I think was there in a Pep team, right? And he obviously brings that legacy from his time at Man City, and he's an absolutely gem of a player. Right, I used to think that Robertson is the best fullback, and he was, but I think someone challenging him is probably Zinchenko in my opinion. But having said that, I think Odegaard again is a good shout, who can hurt us in midfield, and depending on who plays for us, right, I think we'll have to defend him really well.
Yeah, I agreed with your points. I don't think Zinchenko is gonna play this game. I think we're gonna try Kiwior at left because Salah, Anfield, Zinchenko just not looking like a good combo. I think last season as well he played Tomiyasu. The Tomiyasu would have been the perfect left back for this fixture. He had a really good matchup against Salah, but unfortunately he's injured. So let's see what he decides to do. AJ, who are you scared of, bro? What scares you in this fixture matchup?
So who scares me? Salah, man. Like nobody. He's one of those beasts who can turn a few people around, and then there's just score a brilliant goal. So he's one. Jota is not going to play, so that's great because he always scores against us. Who else is gone? Darwin, I'm not really scared. I think he probably might score for sure, but then he'll miss like 5 sitters. So that's okay. Darwin we can take care of, but I think I'm more scared of Zinchenko than anybody else because if he plays, he'll give us tremendous amount of things going forward. Offensively, he comes in the midfield, he stitches things together, and that's great because offensively he makes us stick, but defensively he becomes a liability. And I don't feel we're going to play Kiwior. I don't think Arteta trusts Kiwior enough to play him at Anfield. If it was Tomiyasu, totally different game. I mean, he would have. He was a shoo-in on that left side if Tomiyasu was available. So I think Liverpool, it's if you just look at their games, right? None of those games, or most of those games, haven't been like the teams or opposition has been scared. And the amount of possession Arsenal hold and duels that we win in the midfield, I think that will be a key battle going into the matchup. But then again, it's the COP. So if any of our players or the manager end up riling the crowd up, I think it's just a downward slope from there. I don't think we are brave enough and solid enough to to tackle the 12th man that Anfield presents us. So I think that'll be the biggest challenge, the stadium and the jinx to break it.
Cool. Heard all of your points. Great points. We're probably going to wrap up this section now. Before we wrap up this section, I'm just going to take final predictions for the game so that we can hold all of you guys accountable. Akash, start up, man. Just tell me what your final score is. Who is going to be the star of the game and who's going to be the flop of the game? Just these three things.
I do see us conceding, so probably I'll go for a 3-1 to Liverpool. Yeah, I do see Salah scoring because he's probably off to AFCON after this game. Maybe another one.
Final
And
goodbye.
I do see him. Sorry?
Final goodbye, I'm saying.
Yeah. And I don't really have a pick for a flop because I do feel that Arsenal also have a good squad and they would turn up, especially after what happened last season. They were 2-0 up at Anfield and they gave up the lead, which sort of led to them losing the title. So yeah, it'll be a good game, but hard to pick a flop. I do see quality on both the sides.
Right. Prayak,
Yeah, I'm of course I'm going to be hopeful for Arsenal to win. So I'm expecting the scoreline to be 3-2. We did, we were 2-0 up last season, so we can get things done there. It's just about being consistent and controlling the game after we score. So I think that this season we've done a really good job like controlling the game. Every game we played, we've controlled the game, even though we've lost 2 fixtures. So I would say the final score would be 3-2. I think Arsenal would open the scoring. I think the flop of the game would be Nunez, and the star of the game would be Martinelli.
okay, great. Harshad, go ahead.
I think 3-2 to Liverpool. Always a high scoring game, this one, so I won't quite go with like a 2-0 or a 3-1 prediction. That's never a normal game, this one. That's partly why it's so enjoyable. Right? And by the way, it's the fixture that has had the most goals scored in the English Premier League. So I would think that given the attacking power, it'll be a high scoring game. 3-2 to Liverpool. Star of the game, Mo Salah. Flop of the game, none as such. I am seeing a lot of denigrating comments towards Darwin Nunez. Right, we would like to tell you that he has two sides of him that play. Right, there's a side to him which scores 2 late goals against Newcastle when we are playing with 10 men, and there's a side to him which misses sitters. So hopefully for us, the Newcastle side of him turns up, and hope he pitches in with a goal as well.
When you said high scoring, right, the first thing that came to my mind was 4-4 R7.
Yeah. For me, I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. I think Martinelli will be the star.
After everything you said, you're going for a draw. After
Yeah, I think, man. I mean, when
after
my
throwing all that shade.
when my
I
manager
think that
You
plays
know what? He always does that.
when my manager plays, you'll never walk alone in the training pitch, and it's shown on TV. Then I'm a little skeptical of the ground more than the team. So yeah, I'll go for a 2-2 draw, and I think we'll do it for Emery. We'll help Aston Villa climb to the top of the table. The star of the game would be Martinelli. I think Trent is going to get cooked, and I do feel he's going to score too. So I think he'll balance out his game, offensive versus defensive. And then flop of the game, Raya. Let's go for my boy.
Come on, man. So much hate. You picked him to be flop of
I
the
don't
game
hate him.
so many times now.
I don't hate him. My only calm with Arteta is just he should have just picked the number 1 and go with it. That's the only thing. I don't hate him, but I think he's gonna have a tough game at Anfield because. See, I feel like Raya is not yet ready for big games, and Anfield presents itself as a very loud stadium, although
Okay.
it was a library like last week. So I think it'll be one of those games for him.
All right. Awesome. Crazy. For me, it's going to be a 1-1. I don't think there's going to be as many goals as previous fixtures, just because of the way Arsenal are playing these days. Start of the game is going to be Darwin Nunez, who's going to score a goal against us. And flop of the game is going to be Darwin Nunez, who's going to miss a lot of chances. So that's me for the elements here. Alright, guys, going to wrap up this section. And the next section we're going to go towards is the combined 11.